Okay, so this video is how to study for the Orthopedic Clinical Specialist exam, the OCS. Now, I found this to be one of the most frustrating exams I've ever taken because there was no clear way to study for it. It's not like you're in school again and you have the teacher giving you the PDFs and saying, know these slides and you'll do well on the test. It's not like that. There's no clear guide for this. And so that's why I wanted to make this video, was to let you guys know that there is a way to study for this that I found to be really helpful. Now, the first thing that I did that was the most helpful is that I did a residency. Now, to become an orthopedic clinical specialist, you either need to do a residency or you need to spend a couple years in an outpatient setting working. Now, the residency was amazing for me. I did it with Kaiser Permanente in Southern California. I could not recommend it more. Okay, now short of that, there's a lot of resources out there, and a lot of people will tell you a lot of different things, and so I guess I'm just another one of those people. But what really worked for me is, one, I signed up for MedBridge, which is a website. It costs a couple $100, but they have 400 practice questions. I'm not saying do them all at once. What I want you to do is do the first 100 and just see how you do, and actually space it out over, I would space it out over about 2 months. So let's say your test is in March, like March 4th. Start in January. Do January 1st, do a test. Do the end of January, maybe the middle of February, and then a couple weeks before the test, like the beginning of March or the end of February. So kind of like space them out. I'm not sure I spaced very well right there, but you know what I'm saying? You want to give yourself time to study. And when you do space them out, take the test and then go back through every question, even the questions you got right, and look at the right answer and the wrong answers, and look at why they're wrong. Okay, make note card. Anything you're like, oh sweet, I didn't know that. Make a note card on it. I made a stack. Where is it? I don't have it here, but I made a stack of note cards, probably like that thick. And what's cool about it is that you just flip through those, and eventually you're going to get so bored flipping through this because you know them all, because you've read them, you've written them. So sign up for MedBridge or some other service that allows you to take test questions and make note cards on all the right answers and the wrong answers, and just do test questions. Okay. I also had access to this OCS prep course. I'm not sure if it's in existence anymore. And I had access to the USC Orthopedic Physical Therapy Residency Summary. And both of these gave me a lot of information. Now, I don't know if you can get hold of this information because I think it's copyrighted. But one thing that you can get is this Orthopedic Secrets book. And I really like this. Because I used it as a great reference for when I was doing my research about, say, like gamekeeper's thumb or something. Instead of like looking on the internet or looking back on all my notes in school, I just look in the index of this, and it gives me just like a really quick, like 2 or 3 sentence thing on it and how to treat it, and that's it, And that's really what all the OCS is. It's not looking at all these like really crazy esoteric things. They really want you to know these broader concepts. But in saying that, they really like focusing on things that present similarly. I'm not allowed to give you exact test questions, but I can say like things that say like if there's an upper arm like neurological disorder, if there's like an upper arm that goes into the hand, some neurological disorder, things that present maybe tingling in your thumb versus your pinkies, or things that have numbness or just pain and no numbness in like the forearm. Like know the differentiation between those little things. They love that. They love that. And you think like as a physical therapist in an orthopedic setting, we don't really deal a lot with hands and elbows. Maybe we deal more with maybe shoulders, hips, knees, but the OCS really likes upper extremity stuff. So what I also did was I go back to your brachial plexus, memorize your brachial plexus and all those little branches off of it. Okay, just draw it 50 times. Every week, just like sit down and draw it 5 times in a row. I got to be able to draw it and all its branches in about 30 seconds. First thing you do when you walk into the test, draw that brachial plexus, have it sitting next to you. So just so you have it, it's so much easier just to look down and reference that rather than have to think about it all the time. So you have that, and then also just know the branches of the nerve branches down in your legs as well, and what innervates what. So those are all really good. Again, know those like things that present really similarly. That they love those type of questions. Again, I can't tell you specific things about the test, but you should know splinting positions of the hands. And like for what sort of injuries would you have your wrist and your hand and your MCPs and all that stuff in different positions, right? You should know all that sort of stuff. Know your clinical prediction rules. They love this stuff. Clinical prediction rules, and know like if they're having like lumbar disorders, if it goes into like the mobilization or specific exercise category, or the manipulation or the stabilization, the traction, and what someone might present with that would go into each of those categories. And know all of your CPRs. Find a list. There's lists all over the internet. Find a list of CPRs, make note cards, memorize all those CPRs. Get some sort of like reference book that you can use to just quickly look stuff up that you're just like a little bit sketchy on. Like avascular necrosis versus like a skiffy or something like that. It's like, I kind of remember that from school. Can I find my notes or whatever? No, just like have a quick reference book, whatever it is. I'm not recommending this one specifically. I liked it, but I'm sure there's a bunch out there that are great. And then do as many test questions as you can, but don't blow your wad in the beginning. Spread them out, okay? Because you need a little bit of motivation. You gotta say, like, what I did, I went and I studied at a coffee shop every weekend for 3 months before the test. 6 to 8 hours, Saturday and Sunday. A couple days during the week, I'd hit it up for 2 or 3 hours, but I just basically devoted my weekends for 2 or 3 months before the test to studying for this test. And yeah, it was hard. It was hard. It was the hardest test I've ever studied for. But it's not impossible, and I hope that I can give you just a little bit of direction on how to study for it. Let me see if there's anything that I missed. Yeah, it's a couple hundred questions long. There's going to be a break. Use your break. I used like a short break in the beginning, and then I took like a longer lunch, and then a little short break for 5 minutes for water at the end. Let me see. Oh, current concepts. The APTA puts out a publication called Current Concepts, and has 12 monographs devoted to each like body part or let me see here. So there's the shoulder, the elbow, wrist and hand, the TMJ. Oh, they love the TMJ. Know that stuff, but you don't have to get like again. You have to get super esoteric. Just know like basic capsular patterns. And know like a differential diagnosis in the TMJ and stuff like that. You don't need to you don't need to kill yourself memorizing that stuff. But don't ignore things like the upper extremity and the TMJ just because you think that we never really treat it. Because OCS really does like hit that stuff. But the majority, I would say, is on the bigger major joints and the bigger things that we see. From my experience, at least. Yeah, so Current Concepts is put out by the Orthopedic Physical Therapy Association. It is 300 bones if you're a member, and these like monographs. There's 12 monographs, and I think they were worth it. I didn't, at the end of each of one, I'll tell you this: at the end of each of one, there's practice questions that were really good. So if anything, I liked them for the practice questions because again, that's my whole thing. Do the questions. And then all of the answers are like, remember what I said, do the questions and then look up the research. And research not only the right answer, but the wrong answers, because those could be the right answers for other questions. So all of the research for those questions is in the monograph. So you don't have to go and find some other sources of literature to support these answers and be like, why is that answer right? Why is that answer wrong? No, it's all right there. So in that way, Current Concepts was pretty valuable. I had actually forgotten a little a little bit about how much I actually use that. But it's mainly just my biggest thing, especially for the last month before the test, was doing questions and then researching the questions, because otherwise you get so lost in all of this other material to study and you don't really know what to study. And so the questions are going to give you a really good basis for that. I feel like I've kind of hammered that home enough. There's really not much more. If you guys have any specific questions, feel free to ask them down in the comments or send me a message. I'll put a link to the current concepts page in the description below. Cool. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck.